Future and Metro Boomin just dropped their second collab album, We Still Don't Trust You, and after listening to it, I gotta say, it's way better than the first one. Like the video right now if you think so too. But anyways, in this video I'm going to go over how some of my favorite tracks from the album were made and how we can achieve that MPC characteristic, that MPC sound, without having to buy a real MPC with this cool little tool I made. This album, compared to their first collab project this year, truly shows Metro's range when it comes to beats, going from popish tracks like the album titled Intro, We Still Don't Trust You, and Always Be My Fault, both featuring The Weeknd, to vibey trap songs with some R&B mixed into them like Overload, all the way to classic DS2 monster-inspired trap beats with a modernized touch to them on the second disc of the album, which I will go over each one of those styles in this video. But what all of these beats have in common is they were all at least partially made with the MPC 2000 XL, a legendary drum machine that gives you beats that warm, slightly distorted feel, which I just had to recreate within FL Studio, so my drums sound like they were ran through an old MPC, because I was not finna pay $1,000 for a drum machine with a floppy disk, like. You will find out more about this throughout the video, but let's start off breaking down one of my favorite tracks from the album, Overload, an R&B-ish, vibey summer song with a simple but catchy trap beat. Now before I started making the beat, I downloaded the song and used the new FL stem tool and further analyzed what Metro and Dry Moon did to create this beat. Now if we analyze the melody and look at the MIDI, you can see that the melody is in A minor and it's playing a very popular 5-6-1 chord progression, keeping it very simple with this upright piano and having what sounds like multiple layers of strings with some texture and maybe even like a synth in between that really adds to the vibe of the song. So I first went ahead and grabbed the smooth textural synth from my Augmented 1 kit. And then moving one octave up. And then layered the most realistic sounding vintage piano that I know of on top of it. Now the way I make these chords sound more realistic is not by playing them in or clicking Alt S to strum, but actually use this humanize tool up here. There's no shortcut for it, but this tool kind of offsets every note, so it sounds like somebody actually played it in, and a lot of people don't know about it. Now to add some more texture, I use this beautiful decent sample bank called Granular Vocals, playing this string-like vocal on top of the piano and this textural pad I got. And then to add some more variation and like an A, B, C section, I added these very subtle arpeggiating notes. And then as a last melodic element for B part, I added this beautiful gliding synth to make the melody transform from this more present thing to just this ambient vibey melody that is just in the background and just adding that vibe. And as you can see with that gliding lead, it kind of comes in a little early, so it's just a smoother transition since it's a very like present sound. It kind of sounds weird when it just like perfectly comes in on the first note, you know. It kind of needs some introduction. Just let things come in a little early, so it's not like this A part, you know, it lasts 10 seconds and then it's like something completely different. I kind of make everything fade in and fade out. Now then, on the whole melody bus, I added my MPC pass-through emulation. This MPC 1 mode is much more extreme. It really like filters it and makes it sound really vintage and old, but this MPC 2 mode is just perfect. Like it just adds a little bit of a filter, you know, a little bit of a roll off in the highs, and it just kind of gives it a little bit of a warm, saturated sound, especially if you turn on this clip and saturate too. Then moving on to the drums, we don't got too much to talk about, since when we look at the drums from Overload, they are honestly extremely simple. The only cool thing Metro did here is these double kicks. They add just like a little more bounce to certain sections. But other than that, just very simple classic trap drums. I just went into this Metro Show the Screen kit, which I downloaded years ago, but has all the sounds in it that Metro uses till this day. If you don't know about this kit, it's probably still on Reddit. If you want these drum sounds, just get them from there. Starting off with these simple hi-hat and snares. The only cool little thing I did right here is this kind of like offset hi-hat that comes in once. And a very simple 808 and kick pattern. As y'all was maybe able to hear, especially when soloing the kick in 808, is this kind of crackling vinyl noise. Y'all may have guessed it. I'll put the emulation on there as well. If I bypass this, y'all gonna hear a huge difference, especially with the 808 and kick. Like, when using this, it kind of filters out the drum sounds just a little bit. So what I did to counter that is boosted the highs on the hi-hat, clap, not on the snare, but to just make them pop out a little more again. Now, if you want to get this time I actually made it available for free. So y'all can just check the first link in the description and download this to get this gritty MVC sound on your drums without having to spend $1,000 and struggling with a floppy disk, bruh. Like, I don't know how floppy disk works, bruh. Anyways, let's move on to a more classic trap beat in that typical Metro style, like Streets Make Me a King, Crossed Out, or Show of Hands. Starting off, I used a sample by JM and Grayson that perfectly fit in that Metro simple but catchy dark vibe. But don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for y'all. The first melodic element is this ethnic sounding instrument. Honestly, don't really know what it is, but it's playing this pattern right here. Then this classic synth sound playing this simple melody. And then layering those two melodies with this kind of like ominous key sound. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we got this bass note, piano note right here. And like a bass note too. Which I used in the intro, in one part of the verse, and in the bridge again. Then we got these strings coming in right here. I put these strings on a different mixer track to make them stand out a little bit more. And then to kind of make the beat progress more, which in my opinion is something that makes Metro Boomin's beats stand out more, you know, in comparison to songs where you can clearly hear that the artist just recorded on a 2-track and put the song out. These beats are always, like I'm talking about every single song, evolving in any way. So anyways, I digress. I went ahead and added this little string exit melody, which comes in this second part of the verse, or like in this main part of the verse. And then to add even more progression, I added another kind of like accent ambient melody that is a little more present, coming in at the last part of the verse, continuing on to the bridge, climaxing at the drop, and then just suddenly cutting out so the drums come in even harder again. Now honestly, what would be a good idea here is to add a low pass filter that slowly opens up to create even more tension. I guess I was just too lazy and it just kind of sounded good and worked. So that's all the melodic elements. Let's go through the drums. Again, pretty simple. The only real interesting thing here is layering some of the snares and just in general using a lot of different snares to kind of, you know, make the very simple chat pattern more interesting. Same settings again here, and also same technique again with turning the highs of the hi-hat, clap, snare up so they pop out a little more and counteract the slight filter this MPC2 mode adds. Now moving on with the 808, which also plays a very simple pattern. And having this kind of cool variation at the end right here, which goes along with the snare roll. Then to top it off, I added this classic effect which just fit perfectly and I would never use in another beat, but for the video I had to. You feel me? Like the way it comes in. And then the last thing I did is adding these stumps. Also, you know, classic sound. Yeah, that's it with this beat. That's it with this video. Appreciate y'all for watching, especially if you made it to this point. Don't forget to download the MPC pass-through sound emulation. The FLPs for both beats will be available for my Patreons as well. As a summary, bro, what could I say? I think you learned enough in this video, bro, honestly. Fuck it. My throat is hurting. Hey, y'all have an amazing day. Make some cool beats, and I'm out.